It was a cheap sport. We all ran in Bata shoes. We didn't have spikes. We didn't have a synthetic track. Sports sciences was unheard of. I ran because I loved to run, and we just stuck to it.
In the 1980s, visibility for women in sport came with admiration and scrutiny at the same time.
My mother was truly a woman of substance. She was very, very strong, didn't bother about anything around her, and it was just a single-minded focus. Dad continued working in Calcutta and sending the little money that we had, and she made it a point till the day I retired, she would walk with me to the stadium and sit there and just watch. It's only now I think we as parents need to be blamed because we are overly protective about our children. Children don't want to kind of just explore other grounds. You want to play safe all the time. I don't think one should play safe at all. Whether I was a young athlete, I stood my ground. If I felt that they are not treating you right, I would always put my foot down. Whether it was Kalmadi, we've had enough of these people running. Setting up clean sports and the Commonwealth Games mess truly brought out what Indian sport at that point in time was all about. And to emerge successful was very difficult. It was a struggle, and you can't continue that for today's kids. Nobody will take up sport.
You competed against the big names, defeated some of the icons like PT Usha. What do you think differentiated for you at your peak?
She was one of the greatest athletes Asia has ever produced. I was happy coming second to Usha all the time. Until I met Dr. Rupan Das, he says this is what we should do if you want to break barriers. I started my meditation and my visualization. Running against time and not against the person became crucial. The approach to life itself changed.
You were also known as one of India's glamour girls among the sports field.
I was comfortable in my own skin, and I have always wanted to be different, especially on the track. It always made me perform better. I started wearing the leotards and the one-piece suit, and I always had long polished nails. For me, it worked.
Welcome to Up Close, where we zoom in on those who don't just break barriers but redefine what's possible. This is part of our Road to She Spark series, where we spotlight women leaders, change makers, and entrepreneurs who are shaping the economy, communities, and culture. I'm Shivani Muthana, and today we get up close with Ashwini Nachappa. She's an Olympian who has represented India at the 1988 Seoul Games. Also a dominant force in the national sprint circuit through the late 80s and the early 90s, and an Arjuna Awardee who's also famously known as India's Flo-Jo. But her journey, of course, doesn't stop at the finish line. She has gone on to shape the next generation through Karaumbiah's Academy for Learning and Sports and Ashwini's Sport Foundation, building sustainable pathways for young talent, especially from rural India. Ashwini, a pleasure to have you here at the
Thank you,
Studio.
Shivani. Absolute pleasure.
Dialing back to your early days and growing up years in Karnataka, which is where you were born, looking at how you really took on this journey of being an athlete, it was at a time when, it wasn't really a glamorous or secure path. So give us a sense of when you realized that speed wasn't just a talent, but an identity that you wanted to create for yourself. And what did discipline look like before all the medals came in?
Shivani, to be very honest, I took to sport by chance. Though I was born in Coog, but my dad used to work in Calcutta and we lived there. And, the late 70s was a time of chaos and a lot of strikes, workers' union. So basically, my sister and myself came down to Bangalore to pursue an education. I was about 7 or 8 years old, my sister about 9 or 10. And it just so happened that our house was just next to the Kantirava Stadium in Bangalore. And we were looking to go to schools. My mother, being a strict disciplinarian, just wouldn't let us play on the street. So we would walk to the stadium every evening. That was our playground. And watch all the athletes run. So I think that was when the discipline already set in at that young age, intentionally by my mother. But, for us, it was just a big field to play on. And then we had a lot of young kids and we were bribed to run. We would get a nutrient suite for every lap we ran. And I think at that early age, collecting those nutrient sweets became a passion.
Really interesting to see how it actually organically
Very
evolved
organic,
in a
very,
sense.
very organic. It wasn't that, my parents came from a sporting background. Of course, all Kodavas love sport, but they've never played a professional sport or even represented the district. It just was that my mother thought it was best that kids are out on a big open field, both my sister and myself. Something was there in both of us. There was some natural talent in both of us, which the coaches recognized at that point and really gave us that encouragement at that early age to just start running for fun. And both of us became school champions and the state champions in our age category. And there was really no looking back. It was a cheap sport. We all ran in
Yeah,
Bata shoes. We didn't have spikes and school uniform. So there was no looking at any other sport because you couldn't afford to go into a pool or play tennis, and we just stuck to it.
and you went on to prove yourself, win and create many records, so eventually becoming an elite athlete in an era where there was limited sports science, limited infrastructure, visibility, and support. So what did preparation look like when it actually came to that level, both mentally and physically?
The support was just our coach and the family. I think for any child to blossom, the family support is very crucial. And I think both my sister and myself had that from our parents. It was also, I think, my mother's intuition as well as a kind of a dream to see her kids. She knew that we had some amount of talent and that could be nurtured. It was around the time when we started winning continuously. The Bangalore school games at that point in time would be like the Olympic games. All schools would walk. There was no transport. We would just walk from every school and just culminate into that contiguous stadium. I think winning at that young age really propelled that journey into the state championships, the national championships, and then as a young athlete you always want to be at the Olympic games and represent the country. It wasn't so much as breaking a record. My very first spikes was handed over as a gift from my PE teacher who was from Ceylon, Sri Lanka there. And she went for a holiday and came back and gave us. These are people who really touched our lives, to not look back and just look forward. MP Ganesh, the former Olympian, gave us our first tracksuit. So there were many people in this journey who really stood with us. They knew that there was a spark in these two sisters, and I think that kind of encouragement lasted. Of course, then you start winning medals, then you have targets. We didn't have a synthetic track. We were just running, it was a cinder track. Practice was there. Sports sciences was unheard of. We just ran because we just loved to run. At least I ran because I loved to run. And I was, as a young child, determined to do well in athletics, but also to emerge from a very average family and the financial struggles that we were having at home, to emerge out of that. And I think it was a great vehicle to be seen to be doing well.
Eventually also created the path for many women, right? Because at that point, I think women athletes were still breaking ground. In the 1980s, visibility for women in sport came with admiration and scrutiny at the same time. So how did you deal with some of that pressure, the expectations, and the public perception?
I was fortunate that my mother was truly a woman of substance. I think she was somebody that was very, very strong, didn't bother about anything around her, and it was just a single-minded focus that dad continued working in Calcutta and sending the little money that we had. And she made it a point till the day I retired, she would walk with me to the stadium and sit there and just watch. So she was our biggest strength. And I think once you start winning and getting to be known, those days, every paper had the Bangalore school games covered, the nationals, and we always came back with a medal home. So I think when you have a journey like that, I didn't worry about the outside world at all. We all mingled well. It's like how we've grown up in school, okay? It's just now it's the divide and don't do this. I think today's society has fed that into every child. So the parents have become very protective. Children don't want to kind of just explore other grounds. It's just you want to play safe all the time. We never played safe. I don't think one should play safe at all. PE teachers really disciplined us in school. We went for basketball, we went for hockey, we all played sport. And it was a great atmosphere at that point in time. It's only now, I think, we as parents need to be blamed as well as educators, because we are overly protective about our children. We don't want them to go through what we've gone through. So I think that's where it's all diluted.
Yeah.
The strength of that child, or the innocence of that child, just be with everybody, talk to everybody today with gadgets, and I've gotten into their own cell.
So take me back a little bit to the Olympics in Seoul in 1988. What was that journey like? Did you see sort of anything shift internally when you stepped onto that track and you knew that you were going to run, with India on your chest?
Before the Olympics, the very first championship, international championship, that I took part was the SAF Games in Nepal in 84. And I think any athlete wearing the India colors is a different feel. I mean, you can't really explain what it feels. You represent the country, you hear the national anthem, you win a medal, and the flag goes up with the national anthem. It's a fantastic feeling, and I think one must experience that. By the time I was 16, 17, I was already representing the country. And by the time I reached the Olympic Games, India was never going to win a medal at that point in time. But to even get through the qualifying of the timing, for us to reach that qualifying itself was an achievement, because we never had any exposure. I think the only camp that I remember was in Germany before the Olympic Games, one six-nation 4-week training. That was our only exposure ever. Otherwise, it was Patiala or Bangalore. Times have changed drastically.
Right. And even like you said, at the national level as well, before the Olympics, you were doing so well at SAF and the Asian Games. You also competed against the big names, defeated some of the icons like PT Usha. What do you think differentiated for you at the time when you were at your peak, right? Was it your temperament, the way you trained, or something deeper?
I was happy coming second to Usha all the time. The perspective of Usha was like, she was invincible. She was one of the greatest athletes Asia has ever produced. So beating her was not anywhere in our horizon. So coming second at every event was good enough. Until I met Dr. Rupan Das in probably 86, 87, who had come down from America, a sports psychologist, and he watched me just running on the track. He came down after I finished my training in Kantura Stadium, and I had no clue who he was. He introduced himself, and he says, "This is what we should do if you want to break barriers. Would you like to try it?" And without batting an eyelid, I said, "Sure, why not?" And just lying there, started my meditation and my visualization.
Oh, okay.
And that needed a lot of training. I think the mindset of just, anyway, she is there, I'm going to come second, to running against time and not against the person became crucial. So the mental training and the mental aspect to approach that event was different. And actually, when you're on the track, it is just a finish line and you're running with the time that you have set. You know exactly what you're going to do. And I think that delivered results for me. That really changed so many things in my life. The approach to life itself changed. The approach to competition changed. The approach to my competitors changed. You can be the best rival on the field, but off the field it's different. But you also are very selfish within yourself to achieve that target that you set for yourself. It's not that, you run a 9.9 and I'm going to set my 9.9 if I'm not capable of. You set realistic targets and how you work towards it. So it's a lot of work that goes in sports psychology. And that's the time, I think in 87, 88, we put up a proposal to the government, to the sports authority, saying this is what you must introduce.
To bring up this point, then, sprint careers could be a little fragile, injuries, recovery cycles, and of course the entire mental fatigue of it all, right? So what did resilience mean to you during that period? Injuries, performance dips, and what do you believe high performers in any field can learn from that phase, and how you built resilience?
I built resilience through failures. And I think that's one of the greatest lessons for me, because it's not that you can be the best all the time. It depends on the conditions on that day, how your body is. And also, as a young athlete, I tried from hurdles to long jump to sprints till about 17, 18. And it was already too late that I shifted to 200 and 400 as my priority events. But I was just juggling between so many. So, of course, injuries are bound to be there. It's not going to be easy every time from a 13 to 16 to 18 to the women category to go on. You will experience failures, but how you handle those failures and how much of a focus and how much of hunger you have is very, very important. And you've got to have patience in that journey.
Now, you were also known as one of India's glamour girls among the sports field, a label that can both elevate and maybe trivialize the achievement in a sense. So, how did you navigate being seen not just as an athlete, but now also as a public figure?
No, I think that's what the media called me, because I was in an era where all of us had basic clothing. We didn't have the fancy clothing. It just so happened that my sister was in the US. She went on a sports scholarship to Arkansas, and then she had sent a few running gears at that point. And that's when I started wearing the leotards and the one-piece suit. And I always had long nails, polished nails. So I was comfortable in my own skin. And I have always wanted to be different, especially on the track. It always made me perform better. To be different on the track, not like the rest of them. And you know that people are noticing. So the pressure to perform and to give it your best, I think for me it worked. And that's how people started, the media started labeling that. It doesn't trivialize. As long as your performance is there and that does the talking, it doesn't matter.
Right. Interesting to see how you sort of stood your own and built your identity, Now, coming to how you sort of moved on from athletics and created your own identity off the field as well, how did you redefine success after stepping away from peak competition to now building something that lasts and that is sustainable?
For me, every phase in my life has not been consciously made. It's just, as I said, God has been kind, it's been organic. After the Olympic Games, I had the World Championship. And at that point in time, I think for me, letting go of anything has come very easily. When you're on top, I let go of my athletic career. I got into movies. It's a chance that I took, a risk that I took. It did well. And I was also working for a bank. I worked 16 years for a Vijay Bank. So we were all absorbed through sports. Then the nationalized bank would take through sports quota. And then one day I decided this is not what I want to do. After 16 years, I typed my own resignation and I sat down. And then my husband and I decided to start the school. I believe that every step that you take, give it 100%. And when you don't enjoy it, just move out and find another path. When I retired from athletics, I announced my retirement. I was at the peak. I was heading Special Olympics for the mentally challenged. We had 80,000 children. I would take them for the Olympic Games, to various, Winter Olympics, Summer Olympics, to travel with the team. I loved working with children all the time. And then with Parikrama Humanity Foundation, set up the sports setup there. So it's always been working with young kids, while bank really gave me the little bit of economic independence. But this is what I really like to do. And that's when we decided, both my husband Datta and I decided that we'll start something in our own hometown. So we said we will put in institution, just like how we came up, integrate sports into the curriculum, and just let children enjoy and experience sport. It need not be everybody can become an international athlete, but just experience the love of sport, the joy of being on the field, the values that come along with it. That was very important, and I think that we set up very, very consciously.
Is there a gap that you feel needs to be fixed with KALS, right? What is the kind of work you do? You mentioned that you're integrating academics with elite training in a sense. How has that been going?
It's been 21 years since we've set up the institution. We started with 25 kids. Both my husband and I came from non-educational background. I've just put in what we learned in school back then. So it's very conventional, but also required for today's needs. And I always tell the kids, it's a huge campus, so you've got to explore yourself. And every child from grade 1 to grade 12 Whether it's swimming or hockey or shooting or athletics, play sport, basketball. Everybody is on the field at that particular time. We have about 8 or 9 people in the PE department. I think one of the largest in any school. Every academic teacher involves themselves in any sporting activity that happens in the campus. So it's like a big family that's growing through sports and education. What I would like to fix, it's all short-term successes that children are looking at. Nobody has the patience. Everybody wants quick success. Nobody wants to work really hard. And they just cannot handle pressure. They cannot handle failure. If one event doesn't go well, they think it's the whole life is gone.
Or they give up at that point.
They give up. The 10th and the 12th. I mean, if you're talented, you need to, at least till your degree, give it that shot. I think children don't want to take risk. Parents don't want to take risk. So that's a change that I see.
I think you've been very vocal about, clean sports, fair competition, as well as ethics. And in a system that is often tempted by shortcuts, right? We keep hearing a lot of these stories, even from the most unexpected athletes who are at their peak. What are your views, the non-negotiables here? And what role do parents, coaches, and institutions really play in building integrity?
First of all, I think there's no shortcut in life. And the moment you start looking at shortcuts, you're always going to look at things differently. Whether it's making money, whether it is getting success through various aspects, it doesn't work like that on the field. As an individual sport, not much can be done if you have your performance. I didn't have as a team sport player where you can be picked depending on various other aspects. I didn't have that kind. And whether I was a young athlete, I stood my ground. If I felt that they are not treating you right and they're treating the other person of the same team differently, I would always put my foot down. And I don't know how many times Mrs. Margaret Alva, who was our sports minister back then, had to come to Country Stadium because I would create such a ruckus, though I was one of the youngest members in the team, whether it was Kalmadi. And I think that's what we brought out in clean sports. We've had enough of these people running. That really, I think, setting up clean sports and the Commonwealth Games mess truly brought out what Indian sport at that point in time was all about. It was easy for people to say, what is there for you? You'll only run. It's not just running. The entire system was different. And to maneuver that and to emerge successful was very difficult. It didn't come easy as it looked for people. It was a struggle, whether it's for families, whether it's for athletes. And you can't continue that for today's kids. Nobody will take up sport. I don't compromise on such things.
Yeah, and you were a rebel with a purpose.
And that's why I was a blacklisted athlete. Probably even today, people are scared to even, just say, let's have her in this committee or that committee, because you will have to stand your ground.
So, Ashwini, what would be your message to aspiring women athletes there, or, just any women out there today in terms of what it takes to break barriers, stand your ground? What is something that you feel holds women back, and what would your advice be?
Believe in yourself, to believe in the process, and not to look at, shortcuts. Failures is, as I said, one of a crucial aspect in everyone's journey. So embrace it. Don't fear it. Never doubt yourself. Believe along with your support system that this is a goal that I want to achieve, irrespective of how many failures you have. It'll take time. Have that patience, but believe in that process.
A race that defined you, not just as an athlete, but as a woman competitor.
One that defined me as one of the most promising was probably I was 12 years old when I won the first national medal for Karnataka, and the nationals was held in Bangalore. I remember Mr. Gundra was then the chief minister coming down and giving me $1,000 for winning the first. That was special. And of course, beating Usha, not the first time, but the second time, was something that really changed everybody's perspective. This is a girl to look out for.
One woman on or off the track who changed the way you lead?
I have led only through what I've seen from my mom. She has been my biggest teacher. Of course, everybody plays a part as friends, as rivals, and all that. But I think to be strong mentally, not just physically, is something that I look up to my mother for that.
And a stereotype about women in sport you enjoyed breaking.
As I said, standing out, looking different, being different. I think I was always different because even when you went for the World Championships or to the Olympic Games, I would love to meet, whether it was Ben Johnson, Carlo, I would love to go out and talk. And I think I was an extrovert in that sense. And people thought, God, she's a loose cannon kind of a thing. But for me, those experiences have been brilliant. And because of that, I had one training session on the Olympic ground with Carl Lewis and Calvin Smith. I mean, I was so fortunate. Those little things that really changed how I looked at sport.
And even those little connects and networking,
Yeah,
goes
absolutely.
a long way. Yeah. What does legacy mean to you? Being one of the women change makers, both in culture, sports community, and everything that you've done to create this pathway for women in sports.
If I can contribute to the community, impact the community through sports, through mentoring young kids, that's what I've done all my life. And people remember me for that, and also for the courage that I have shown on the track, off the track, and to let go with grace everything in life, because nothing is permanent. But I think the most important is to have your foot on the ground, head on your shoulder, no matter what you achieve.
Great to have you here again. Thank you so much, Ashwini.
Absolute pleasure,
Your
Shivani.
admiration for your
Thank you so
thanks a
much.
lot.
Thank you.